Hello, this is going to be an update to my previous video on repairing the tweeter from the Kef Q15 through 95 range. In the last video I used a very poor quality camera in one of the oldest phones known to man. Also didn't use my voice because I was a bit too shy of YouTube, and this time I hope to make things a little clearer. This one won't go into the detail of disassembly, removal of the tweeter and all that, because we've done it before. So let's get the camera in there. I've already taken this one apart, but I'm going to show you a couple of bits about this. Hopefully you can see everything a bit better. I've already removed these wires from behind the tape. Basically I just pulled them through that slit there, and after that you can start disassembling it. This piece comes off, maybe with a crack of a bit of glue. Same with the top. I had a small screwdriver in these little gaps and just basically pried around the edge until this broke free. Then the little dust cap on the top there, I used a Stanley blade to just peel it away bit by bit. It came away very easily. That comes away with the coil in this case, whereas in the last video I removed this magnet. I found this magnet glued in pretty well. It took a bit of a crack to get it out, but it does pop out nonetheless. And this is what we couldn't see very well last time. These binding posts on the outer shell, these go down to the outer casing of the speaker itself, and the wires, only one of which was broken on this, but we have two wires, and even with this camera I think it's difficult to see. There's one here, and wow, finding it difficult to see myself. Now we can see it, one there. Now this one was broken, but this one was still attached until I started pissing about, and then it just broke anyway. So what we need to do is to reattach those two very small fine wires to these two posts, and it's going to take some fiddly soldering. This is what I couldn't show you last time, and tried to do it all in diagrams. So what I need to do is take a very fine piece of wire, which I had lying around from God knows what. Don't know if you can even see it, but there's several strands of very fine stuff in there. I'm going to have to solder to this, which for the American market is solder, but with the full spelling. I'm also going to have to get some solder onto the ends of these two, which is going to take some doing. This coil, the ends of which we'll be soldering, is a coated copper wire. It's so thin you can't see it, but at the very end we're going to have to give it a bit of a scrape with the Stanley blade without snapping it, just to reveal a bit of bare metal so that the solder will take to it. If it's still coated, the solder won't take. Once extended, we can get them through to these outer posts on reassembly. So let me just warm this soldering iron up, and I'll cut back to it when I'm soldering those bits of wire. Right, now the soldering iron's warmed up, and basically I've got to tin the ends of this really thin wire using tweezers to hold it, and I just want to see if I can get about 1 centimetre of it. I no idea if that's good enough. I don't possess a solder sucker, so I don't want to leave too much on the wire here. I want it barely visible. In fact, it's not even visible. Okay, let's try this. I've got different kind of wire now. This is copper, and I realized that this is from the same stuff I used in my last video, so it has to work. And look at it. It's again misbehaving. So I've just scraped the ends of these, and I'm going to also just loop the very tip of it back over on itself, just so as to try to give the solder something to purchase on. And we will try again. Oh, come on. So to do the actual solder job, I have tried bearing the ends of each wire. I've tried tinning the ends of each wire. Neither seem to have taken, so I'm just hoping for the best here. I have lined them up, held in clothes pegs, and lined them up so they're touching, literally touching each other. I have also got the same type of solder as I used in my last video, because I know that worked, but I've not been having any luck with this stuff that I bought in this machine today. Wish me luck. Oh, spattered onto the thingy there, and nope, that's not taken. Now it appears we have a soldered joint. Wow, that took some doing. Now all I got to do is the same on the other end. Ow! May I recommend parental guidance if you're anything like me and you're trying to solder? Where is that other wire? There it is. Just coming out that end. Just about. I can barely see it. So another piece of that copper wire. Try and tin the end of it first. Well, it looks like it's done. Gotta try and line it up. Oh, looks good. Yep, looks good. Don't speak too soon, but we may have a joint on there. Look at that. Okay, so that's the sort of fiddly work we're dealing with. It's fallen off the other end. What a bugger. No. Gotta do it as I just did. In the clothes peg. I'm also going to tidy the end of that up. I just cut like a frayed end off the end of that piece. Okay. Round 2 for that wire. Well, between you and me and the editing reel, that's more than round 2. Okay. Right. We finally have the 2 wires on this bit. And they extend long enough to kind of put it back together, and then we're going to attach it to the outside binding posts. So I was going to cut out these slots in the top just to make sure the wires run through properly, and I hope you can see with the Stanley knife I put a little V in the top of these plugs as well, so the wire can come through there, and then we'll solder it up once it's in situ. Now, just to put them in place like that is going to be really fiddly, so here's another thing I did, and this is drying out a bit now, but it's still enough. Just putting a little dab of, you can use some sort of glue, I've only got mastic to hand. Need a little up front here as well, basically all the way around. If you can provide a seal, all the better. Because it is, after all, a dust cap. That bit's a bit dry, so let's get some fresh stuff. I'm trying to not put too much of this on. Just want enough for it to be tacky. So we've got one going through the V there, the other's pretty much lining up. out. That's out the V. That one's out the V. And what I'm going to do now is just hold those in place. With a couple of pegs. Now there's a little dent in the top of that, so now's the time to push it out with a little finger. Right, so that is ready for me to do that last little piece of soldering. Now, basically, as I did before, I just need to gently pull down on these wires, get some fresh again, and just give it a dab on those outer posts to encase it in there. Do a little more just to make sure. I can always file it back or cut it back afterwards if need be. Try and thin it out with this now while I'm here. So these wires are now, these wires are now soldered into place. Can't even see the wires very well, unless I put a dark background there. That one again has snapped off, so I'll show you how I checked it before. I'm going to cut this one. Just there. The only thing is I don't have a strong light with me. And I don't know if we can see in there. But basically where the wire comes from the coil to the outside, I'm just going to gently make sure that it's not loose, that it is stuck into the solder. I'll check that on both ends. And again, it seems to be good. I don't think you can see that on camera. Oh, there's that bloody dent in the cap again. Bugger. Okay, let's pull this back because I'm coming off camera again. Just having a feel of these, and I think I will have to take a little sliver off there if I can. Not the ideal thing to do with a Stanley knife, or not the ideal way to do it for the solder. Looks okay to me though. So let's get that back on. The dent's still out, good. And that magnet's got to go very carefully in. You don't want to be creasing the outside of the drum on that. So just have a good feel, make sure it's lined up dead straight and is pushing on easily. Which it isn't. minute. Should that be going down anymore? No, I don't think it should. Okay, sorry. Where were we? It's very awkward trying to do this while viewing it through my phone screen. There, yeah, the magnet is in properly, so that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Okay, again moving out because I'm moving around a bit more. Now, these wires are on the back of the speaker, of the tweeter, and you can see, if you look very carefully, I'll try to open out so you can see better, but right in the bottom there's a little peg. So what we're going to do is wrap it around that peg and then up the channel, and then the same with the other, around the peg. There we are. Now, I'm not just closing the stick around because there's not much sticky left on that. I'm going to take a little piece of tape and just make sure it's stuck in nicely. We still have some soldered ends on these two wires, and that'll be enough just to put it to a source and see if it's working. I'll cut back to that. Okay, right, this is a very rough test here. Got this hooked up, a running source. Look at that.